Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sati Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuryaircha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna dear devotees. Today we are reading from third canto of Srimad Bhāgavatam, chapter 26, entitled The Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Text 35 and 36. So I will chant the 35th one and then we can chant together the next one. That's what they do, right? Nabasa shabdatan matrat kalagatya vikurvataham sparsho bhavatato vayus tvaksparshascha sangraham. And then 36. Mridutvam katinatvam cha saityam ushnatvam evacha etad sparshasya sparshastvam tanmatram nabasvataha. Please repeat after me. Murditvam katinatvam cha saityam ushnatvam evacha etas sparshasya sparshatvam matratvam nabasvataha. Mridutvam katinatvam cha shaityam ushnatvam evacha etat sparshasya sparshatvam tanmatratvam nabasvataha. Mridutvam katinatvam cha shaityam ushnatvam evacha etat sparshasya sparshatvam tanmatratvam nabasvataha. Everybody wants to chant? Murditvam katinatvam cha shaityam ushnatvam evacha etat sparshasya sparshatvam tanmatratvam nabasvataha. Murditvam katinatvam cha saityam ushnatvam evacha etat sparshasya sparshatvam tanmatratvam nabasvataha. Translation. Mridutvam, softness. Katinatvam, hardness. Cha, and. Saityam, cold. Ushnatvam, heat. Eva, also. Cha, and. Etat, this. Sparshasya, of the subtle element touch. Sparshatvam, the distinguishing attributes. Tanmatratvam, the subtle form. Nabasvataha, of air. Okay, I'm going to read the previous verse, translation and purport, and then we'll jump to the next one. From material existence, which evolves from sound, the next transformation takes place under the impulse of time, and thus the subtle element touch, and thence the air and sense of touch become prominent. Purport. In the course of time, when the subtle forms are transformed into gross forms, they become the objects of touch. The objects of touch and the tactile sense also develop after this evolution in time. Sound is the first sense object to exhibit material existence, and from the perception of sound, touch perception evolves, and from touch perception, the perception of sight. That is the way of the gradual evolution of the perceptive objects. Next verse. Softness and hardness and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as a subtle form of air. Purport. Tangibility is the proof of form. In actuality, objects are perceived in two different ways. They are either soft or hard, cold or hot, etc. This tangible action of the tactile sense is the result of the evolution of air, which is produced from the sky. Once again, the translation. Softness and hardness and cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch, which is characterized as a subtle form of air. So in the Bhakti tradition, we quickly learn how all of our senses have to be engaged in the service, in devotional service of the Supreme Lord. And the sense of touch is not excluded. Any examples how we engage the sense of touch? Do you know? Honoring Prasadam, touching Prasadam. Prasadam is not different from Krishna. So when you're touching Prasadam corner, you're actually touching Krishna. Can you imagine? Deity worship? How? Touching Krishna's lotus feet directly. Amazing. So we see in these nice verses how all the fundamentals of material nature are being formed, and it all comes from the subtle platform of matter, and it becomes gradually grosser and grosser, and then finally it becomes earth, which is the most gross element. And we have seen, for example, in the movies, the Western movies, when somebody gets shot, everybody gets shot in the Western movie, and they have a wound, you know? And then they put some whiskey on it. That's what they have. Only thing they have is some whiskey to disinfect the wound. And that is the proper use of whiskey. We cannot use it for drinking because that is not good. It's breaking the principle. So one can take this alcoholic substance and he can put it into a proper use. It's not that it's bad in itself. Or for example, in the early days, there was Dhananjay who brought some eggs. He offered some eggs to the devotees. And they didn't know what to do with it. You know, eggs, we don't eat eggs. What can you do with eggs as a devotee? But just because you cannot eat them doesn't mean that it doesn't have a proper application. So what you can do is you can use them as fertilizer, maybe. Put them in the ground, and there you go. That's it. So in this way, we understand how all of these elements and their subtle forms, the tanmatras, the tanmatra of air is touch, the purpose of air, is there to be used in the service of Krishna. So this is our business as devotees. We have to see how to connect all of these elements in service to Him. Because when we are serving Krishna, only then we are situated properly. Only then we are in our comfortable, not comfort zone, but in our proper situation. And this is what a devotee is actually interested in only, nothing else. He's not interested in what can I get, what can I extract, what can I exploit from this situation. Devotee is always looking to put everything into the service to Krishna. If your condition of happiness is what you can give, then your happiness is under your control, because you have the power to give, but you don't have the power for what you're going to receive. So when we serve, we have the power in our hands. We can choose to be happy, because we can always give back to Krishna. So as we know, Indra, probably we heard yesterday something about Indra in the lecture, right? Famous personality. Indra was expecting this type of honor. He was expecting something. And when he didn't get it, he became furious. He lost his mind. This is how it's in the spiritual world. Everything is used for glorification of Krishna. When we use it for our own gain, when we use it for selfish aggrandizement, as Prabhupada explains, the results are not good. The original purpose of all these things are for the glorification of Krishna. For example, language is created to glorify Krishna. That is the proper use of language. Not to speak prajalpa, definitely. So it's the same thing here. Then we take this material energy and we start using it for glorification of Krishna. And then we are in the spiritual world. There is ultimately no difference. As we know, the expert electrician, what does he do? He uses the same energy either to refrigerate or, like Vraj Mohan, to cook delicious Raj Bhoga offering. So all of this information, it serves us to understand also the complexity, the intricate model of this material nature, of this material environment. Sometimes they call it a prison, even though somebody can get offended, how is this a prison? It's such a wonderful world. But no, it is a prison, Especially when you go on the streets of New York, you can quite vividly see it many times how people are imprisoned in their own minds. They're suffering so much. But this world, which is made by Krishna for us, He made it for us. He made a playground. This is our playground. We're like kids playing with toys. If someone is complaining, we say, if someone is complaining about this, we can tell him, look how much of a genius was invested in creating this huge creation. For you to play God, to be able to think yourself as God and to play that part. So this is our game. Game of God. One time, the guru, he wanted to explain to his disciple what is heaven and hell. So he brought him first to hell. And an interesting sight came to their eyes. They saw a bunch of people together on a table, and they were all super skinny, emaciated. And they were suffering. And another interesting thing was that they had their arms, which were formed like a spoon. Their arms were spoons, but they were very long spoons. And then when the meal was coming, they were trying to eat with their arms to take from the meal, but it was so difficult, they couldn't grasp it. They couldn't feed themselves properly. So they were struggling like this. And that's why they were so skinny and emaciated. And then they went to heaven. And in the heaven, to their surprise, they found the same condition. They had the same arms formed with a spoon. But there was one difference, quite a big difference. When the meal came, what the people from the heavens started doing is that they started feeding the person next to them. And so there was no problem. The problem was solved. So this is the biggest challenge. This is what we have to learn. They say that even from a practical perspective, if you put 50 people together, if everybody thinks for his own self, that's basically, it means that among 50 people you have only one caretaker, if everybody thinks for himself. But if everybody thinks about the others, means that you have 49 servants, 49 caretakers who will take care of you. So, in this way, we have to understand that this is a great gift for us from Krishna, this material atmosphere, which can help us to understand, to rectify our faulty mentality. And this gratitude is a basic principle which is connected to humility. It's very important. A humble heart is grateful for everything. Tattenu kampasu samikshama. Even grateful for pain, even failure or dishonor. This is how the devotees feel. A true devotee is grateful to Krishna for sending all those things. A devotee says, I deserve worse, but you're just giving me a little bit to help me understand. Whatever good we get, we think we don't even deserve it. So we are happy because we are grateful. And whatever difficulties come in our life, we're also grateful for those because we are expecting worse. A grateful heart is like a fertile field where the seed of bhakti can grow without any restriction. But on the other side, an ungrateful heart is like a hard and dry field, a barren field. Nothing can grow there. Very difficult. They say that gratitude is the mother of all qualities. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Kurma Kshetra, when he was doing his South Indian tour, there was the leper Vasudev, who was very, very eager to see the Lord. And he was in a very precarious condition. He had this leprosy and all of his body was completely covered by these oozing wounds. Pus was coming out. Even worms were eating his flesh. But he was thinking that this body is as much mine as is the property of these worms. They're also living inside it. I'm also living here. They're also living here. And when a worm would fall out, he would offer obeisances to the worm and put it back into the wound. So, of course, we cannot imitate this. This is a very advanced level of consciousness. But we can understand the principle. So he came to see Mahaprabhu, but what happened is that Mahaprabhu already left. But because he is the super soul, so he came to know Mahaprabhu himself. And he came back just to fulfill the desire of his loving devotee, an outcast leper. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, upon seeing Vasudev when he came back, he came to him immediately and he embraced him. And then Vasudev said, "No, my Lord, why are you doing this? My body is so abominable. Nobody could ever touch me. Nobody could even get closer because of the stench of the diseased condition of my body. And you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you have embraced me." He was feeling this grief inside of him. How can the beautiful body, golden body of Gauranga touch my abominable wounds? But upon the embrace of Vasudev with Mahaprabhu, his leprosy was immediately cured and his body became beautiful, very, very beautiful, with a golden complexion. And he became a man of a perfect health. And then Vasudev, in his mind, he became very worried. Because when he had leprosy, he was safe because he had nothing to be proud of. But now, he became Vasudeva Amrita Prada. The Lord was named in this way. Lord Chaitanya was named after him. Everyone will look at him and say, "You have received so much mercy from the Lord. He is named after you." What happens if I start thinking myself better than someone else? Then all my devotion is spoiled. Humility nourishes bhakti, but pride covers it. He was afraid of pride, and Mahaprabhu told him, just continuously chant this mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And whoever you meet, just teach them about Krishna. And then if you do this sincerely, pride will never infect your heart. So this is the essence. And we see all this information expounded in the Bhāgavatam, especially in these verses. There is so much you could say about the material elements, information, how the material elements are coming about, systematic study, physics. But what we do is we bring it all back to Krishna. After all, this is the purpose of Srimad Bhāgavatam. This is what it's all about. This is what is relevant for us. This is the only reality. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. Patram pushpam phalam toyam. We have to make our life a beautiful offering and offer it back to Krishna. This is how we will become Krishna conscious. Just like a small child who is offering back to his father his own riches. He cannot get something outside of his house, of his family possessions. So the child offers back the meal that was cooked by his mother, by his father. He offers it back. He's feeding his father. And the father accepts joyfully. What is he accepting? He's accepting the love of the child, because what is there to accept? He's in possession of everything that is there. Or when the devotees offer Ganges, water back to the Ganges, the same. What can we offer to Krishna? So we try to offer our heart. When we do our activities in our daily life, Srila Prabhupada explained, if you have wealth, if you have any opulence in this world, if you're beautiful, if you have intelligence, these are all zeros. One zero after the other, many zeros together, it's still zero, right? But if you put Krishna in front, Krishna is like the one. So it becomes 10 or 10,000 or 1,000,000. So we have to engage all of our talents, of our propensities, and we have to give it back to Krishna. But it doesn't matter, in essence, what we give back. But it matters how much of love we put in our offering. When the Brajbasis offered all the mountains of Prasadam and all the lakes of Kir to Govardhan, he ate everything and they were left with nothing. And they were all worried, oh my God, what are we going to do now? There's nothing left to offer. But then Krishna told them, no problem, just offer him a little bit of tulasi leaf. And they did, with love and devotion. And Govardhan was satisfied in the same way. And then he manifested back the mountains of Prasadam for them to feast to their full satisfaction. And they were eating and eating and eating. And they were just eating because it was pleasing to Krishna. They weren't eating because they were hungry. Only because of Krishna, only to please him. These are the loving exchanges in the spiritual world. And they're very, very sweet and they're very attractive. And if we look deeper into them, if we try to understand the essence, and move away from our selfish mentality, and fill our days with Krishna Katha, with discussion about Krishna, with chanting, with dancing, with preaching, especially when we're preaching, when we're telling others about Krishna. It has a special potency. It is very powerful. It forces you to become strict. It forces you to delve deep, to churn the pastimes, to understand and to convey the deeper principles. And then you learn, because when you teach, you also learn. So it is very important for us to fill our days with Krishna, always increasing, always expanding. And then there is not much left. Not much time left for Maya. So this is our perfection. I think I spoke enough. Now we can open it for questions, comments. If somebody wants to say something or inquire. Mother Janaki, come here. It will be faster. Wake up.
Hare Krishna, thank you for a nice class. And I just had one appreciation, I think, and a comment. Anyways. One thing that I really appreciated that you brought up was that a humble heart is grateful for everything. And that an ungrateful heart is like a dry and barren field. And it's very difficult to grow anything. And I was just thinking that I think this is a common thing, but they say that we do austerity so that we can get strength and discipline and can be strong. And but we do kirtan to keep our heart soft. And that's the important part. The more that we're connected in love with Krishna, then we become soft and compassionate and merciful. And so it's important that we balance the two. And so I was just thinking too that it's really important if we know how to balance those two, even the mood. When we do austerity and we think like, I want to do this thing because I want to be able to do more for Krishna, then that will give us the strength and the motivation. And in the same way, if we enter kirtan in the mood of like, I want my heart to become soft, I want this like steel-framed cage to melt for Krishna. If we enter kirtan in that mood, then we actually get the benefit of having that balance. So I was appreciating that you were talking about that. And then I also had another kind of, I guess, thought about the translation, and maybe you can comment on. But it's talking about the tactile, the softness and hardness, and then cold and heat are the distinguishing attributes of touch. And I was just thinking when we read that oftentimes we can think of people like that. Their personalities or their association. This person is cold, or this person is warm and bubbly and friendly, or they're hard, they're harsh. And so I was just wondering if you could comment on like how the power of association can tangibly affect us, or If that, I don't know if it's like actually connected, but it's just what came to my mind.
No, that's a nice consideration. How the power of association can affect us, transform us for good.
Specifically the hot and the cold, or if we come into contact with a harsh person,
Mm-hmm.
how are we affected? And then if we're in contact with someone who's friendly or affectionate or something like that.
Yes. Yes, so they say that you are who you associate with. This is who we are. Even if you have all the ingredients in your life, water, food, air, everything that you need to sustain your existence. Even if you have all those things, but you don't have relationships with others, you are void. Your existence has no meaning. And that's why people suicide. We can see they become so removed from their original position as a living entity who is desiring and interacting. So, in the same manner, we are basically the people with whom we associate with. They have a saying in Italy, I don't know in English, it might be something similar, that whoever goes with the cripple learns to limp. So, if you associate with cold people or with people who have those particular habits, then naturally you imbibe their qualities. This is how it works. Especially when we are not strong enough. Because it could be the other way around. If we are warm enough to win their coldness, then they will get influenced. But there will be always some influence in the exchange. On the other side, when we associate with saintly people, positive people, and then of course we have Mahabhagavats who are beyond that, who are very extremely humble, like we were seeing here, Vasudev picking up the worms, placing them back, because he considered them residents of the same body where he was inhabiting. So this is extreme levels of humility. And when we see something like this, it melts our heart, When we see the compassion of Srila Prabhupada, when we see the exhibition of all these superior qualities, naturally we become attracted to them. And we strive to acquire them, because these are the original qualities of the soul. Deeply in ourselves, we all want to attain our original position. Everybody wants to live forever. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants disease, because these things are absent. So whenever we associate with this type of personalities, by the power of their association, we also acquire. That is actually the only way. It's not just book knowledge, they say. We have to associate with the Mahabhagavats. And we have to avoid associating with people who don't have those qualities. Or, they say even in ISKCON, so many devotees. It's like a big school. Still we have to choose our association. Because in the school, there are bullies, there are nerds, all kinds of students. Not everybody is on the same level. So, I don't know if this is good enough for you, if you want something more specific.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. I was just thinking that there's always two sides of the coin, where we need to strive for association that's uplifting for our spiritual life. And at the same time, we also need to strive to become exemplary ourselves.
To become what?
Exemplary ourselves. Kanamakana Swami, he had an experience in Vrindavan where he saw something, and after he saw it, he's like, wow, like he was inspired by this person, and then he saw something that was not inspiring, and so he thought, well, this is Krishna telling me that I need to be exemplary myself. And so in that way, we take responsibility for our own Krishna consciousness. So I just had also that reflection that sometimes it's not always black and white, but there's always the other side. Thank you.
Thank you for the reflection. Okay, I think we're good. 5 minutes. Grantaraj Srimad Bhāgavatam ki jai.